o'clock, is it correct?
Always.
Of course.
Welcome back to James Bond Aficionado. Today you may have recently seen on That One Bond Guy Meets Thomas Fleming Never Dies. Thomas, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
You know what? I'm a little tired because it's 7 o'clock, and I haven't been sleeping the greatest, but I can't complain, my friend.
Is it 7 in the morning or 7 in the evening?
It's 7 in the evening.
Oh, right, okay.
So, like I said, the last few days have been me staying up actually until probably about 7 a.m.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it's been pretty rough sleep lately. I don't know why, but unfortunately,
Sorry to hear it.
It's part of life, right?
It is. You're based on the west coast of the US, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I'm right above where Chris is, so I'm in Oregon.
All right. Yeah, I'm in Hong Kong where it's now 11:15, so.
Oh, yes, we should all be thankful of that. Just kidding. Well, we can be. So, Thomas, we can tell by your accent, and everybody is probably picked up. We know you're British, and we know how much the British culture is to James Bond. But let's hear about your introduction into James Bond universe.
Okay, so I think it goes into a few stages. Like as a child, it was always there. I really liked The Man with the Golden Gun when I was a kid. And then as I got kind of older, went to university, Quantum of Solace came out, and that really grabbed me at the time. I know that these two aren't everybody's favorite films, but I feel they hit me at just the right time in my life. As I went through university, I joined a university naval unit, and of course Bond's got a lot of naval stuff in it, and it began to deepen and deepen, but it really got deep when I read the novels by Ian Fleming. So I felt that I'd been missing out on this core part of it. And yeah, I just read the first novel, Casino Royale. It completely grabbed me so much. I just bought all the others in order. It kind of became, quite fun collecting all the right books with all the right covers. But I just love the stories.
Very nice. What was your favorite part of Casino Royale that truly said, I'm hooked?
Yeah, so the first chapter, to be honest, it didn't grab me. It was I liked the writing style, but it seemed like a fairly pedestrian story. It seemed like a fairly, of the 1950s novel. I think it was kind of when it got about halfway through. So like in the movie, Bond gets captured, and as it gets into the kind of the love story later on, I think it really started to get deeper and deeper. It started to go into kind of completely unknown territory for me. I love reading classic books, and I collected antique books, but I could really see a big change here, something that really wouldn't expect from that time, or even expect now. And I think the final line, which is in the movies,
the job's done, the bitch is dead.
Exactly. Yeah, it's quite shocking.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. And the fact I've told you the other day, and I've talked with numerous people, I've never read any of the Fleming books, and I've never read any of the Horowitzes or the list goes on with authors that have written some of the books. I've never read any of them, but I heard Casino Royale. Of course, you got to start there.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's so true to how the movie is, from the torture sequence to the one line at the end of the movie, the job's done, the bitch is dead. Of course, the gambling there, but it's all baccarat.
Yeah.
It's just one of those that it just holds so good.
Yeah.
And Fleming put his true life pretty much on paper. And even though they say, or he says that, I'm not, the character of James Bond is not based off of me, but there's people out there that say, Ian Fleming is James Bond.
Very much so, yeah.
So let's go back to your university days. We know you just brought that up. You served for the Royal Navy for a brief time. What was that
That's
like, and what was your most fondest memory of that?
okay. So I joined a University Royal Naval Unit, and that's a 3-year program for what they call high caliber undergraduates, the future leaders and decision makers of tomorrow. And their mission is to train us in the values and the ethos of the Royal Navy. And of course, the way they do that is simply train us as navigation officers in the Navy. So I got to have some fantastic opportunities like navigating a Royal Naval ship down the River Thames. So if you enjoy that boat chase at the beginning of The World Is Not Enough, which I absolutely love, that was the first one I saw in the cinema. I've been along much that same route along the Millennium Dome, starting at Tower Bridge. And that was the first time I got to navigate a Royal Navy ship.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Being winched up to a helicopter, what we call the dope on the rope, that was definitely a real highlight.
Now, I'm going to freeze you there.
Sure.
You said winch on a rope, or
Yeah,
how
so
did
the
you?
helicopter has
Is
a
that kind of like what you saw in No Say Never Again, but Never Say Never Again? When he was dropping in. I was gonna say, is that when he's getting ready to drop into the? Oh, I forgot what the Tears of Allah, but I forget the exact how they but they have hit Sean Connery dangling from the chopper, and then of course he drops it down and goes into the pool like that. Is that kind of like that, or?
Yep. So, and I think in The Spy Who Loved Me, Roger Moore gets to be winched up, lady.
That's what I was gonna. That was my next reference, but people are probably gonna kill me for like, you really just brought up Never Say Never Again.
the more Sean Connery debate, isn't it?
Hey, there's people out there that like Never Say Never Again, and there might be some that are gonna be watching this and it's like, yes, you just mentioned one of my favorite Bond films. It's like, it's not Eon, people.
Absolutely. It was like I like Quantum of Solace. People are quite kind of shocked. I like the reference. There's a reference to Never Say Never Again in Skyfall. So when Q says these exploding, we don't really go in for exploding pens anymore. And I was like, wow, that's.
But that's also a reference. That is a reference to GoldenEye as well.
Oh, of course, yes.
So, but yeah, that's a good point though. I've never thought about that. That's a good reference for Never Say Never Again as well, because we don't go into exploding pens anymore. Of course, he gets one from Q and it uses it on Fatima Blush. Good point. So,
that was my first thought. I hadn't thought about GoldenEye when I watched that. I was thinking, are they calling out the one film they didn't make?
Well, if you really think about it, the fact that Fox distributes the movies now, like the Blu-rays, and I think they were the company that was producing Orion Pictures was distributing with through Kevin McClory at that time, and I can't remember who directed it now, but I think they were bought out by Fox, and so I think there was one time. I think there is talks that people are kind of frustrated, saying, "Hey, Never Say Never Again is technically part of the official canon now because it is distributed by the Blu-ray company, and it should be part of the the Blu-rays that we get." Okay. So
I'm happy to have one more in my box sets.
Oh, absolutely. And there's versions out there that people have made that I think David Arnold did a composed score on top of the Never Say Never Again. Like, I don't know if you saw David Zaritsky's video that he did with his son Ellis. I think that's his name. David, if you're out there listening, don't hate me. Don't tell your son. But if David, I would love. I think he did a video
Mm.
And they watched it, like, and even his daughter joined, and his son was actually, because they talked about it afterwards, and his son was like, that's not a bad film. And it's like, but I think Joe Darlington has also mentioned it as well. Oh, I've seen this version with, like, I think it's David Arnold's score on top of the movie of Never Say Never Again, and it actually makes it not bad.
Okay. Yeah,
So I was like, I've been like, where can I get a copy of this? Because I want to see this. I don't want to listen to Michael Legrand's horrible score to Never Say Never Again. So
yeah, I love David Arnold's music, so I'd be very happy to see that version of the film.
And we've talked before. You've said that Backseat Driver was your favorite piece.
Yeah,
Do you have
absolutely.
any of other favorite pieces or cues of from David Arnold or John Barry or George Martin? The list goes on of composers we've had in the series.
Yeah. So I love some of the boat chase movies, like in the early Roger Moore films. Like you've got this huge long boat chase in Live and Let Die, and the music when it finally cuts in, because for a long time in the boat chase you just have the roar of the engines, but when they finally cut it in, it's a gorgeous piece of music. So yeah, some of the chase music used to be so much lighter, right? So at the moment you've got this really heavy music. And I remember when I watched Sector, and you've got the bit at the beginning of Mexico, and he slides down the building as it collapses, and it was very, very heavy music, kind of calling back to Skyfall, and he slid down the escalator.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, it's very heavy music. You could have had some of that very light music because it's just a fun moment, So.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going back to Live and Let Die because you brought it up. Not many people know. I haven't told many people, but Clifton James, who played J.W. Pepper, is originally from my part of Oregon, and
Really?
his final days were in the town I grew up in. So
Really?
there was a
That's
little
interesting.
article. Yeah, I did not know that. So, and I wonder if he ended up spending his retired life in the city that I was from. So I was like, when this small little paper says, "Oh, Hollywood actor Clifton James," and it's like, wait, the Sheriff J.W. Pepper? And it's like, then you see, has passed on, and especially when there's people, I know I'm part of a lot of James Bond pages, like on Facebook, Instagram, follow everywhere. It's one of my daily searches on Google. Has died in this small little city called Gladstone, Oregon. I'm like, it kind of makes you feel like, oh my gosh, this hits home.
Yeah.
You did not know that a James Bond actor was living in your small hometown this whole entire time. It's like, but then it's like, I'm kind of glad that, in a town that doesn't have many people, I'm not close by, so I could be like, oh, I'm gonna go hunt you down. Just kidding. So, but I thought that was pretty. It was interesting, but it was very sad at the same time to hear that he had passed on. So,
yeah.
I know you sent me an interview to get to know you a little bit better, and we've talked briefly. You've been to over 20 countries in your life, and I don't know how old you are, but you've been over to 20 countries.
Yeah.
How many of those are James Bond locations?
Okay.
And which ones would you like to return to as you've been older, and which ones were your favorites?
Okay. So yeah, out of the countries I visited, I'd say Turkey is the one where I spent the most time. I spent 7 years there, and I speak Turkish. And it's been in the James Bond films, 3 times? From Russia with Love, Skyfall, and of course The World Is Not Enough. And I think it was a very interesting place. Fleming himself, of course, went there, stayed in the hotel where he stayed and where Agatha Christie stayed when she wrote Murder on the Orient Express.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's probably the place I'd naturally go back to, probably will go back to. When you speak the language, you get connected to a country. So that's the number one place. I've just been to Japan and I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I was really blown away. Yeah, by the culture there, food, which everybody had talked about before I went, and yeah, I'm going to talk about it now. The food was amazing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
So living in
And I'm
China,
gonna, we'll get into the food aspect in a little bit, but that's
Sure.
good to hear. So continue.
sure. Living in China, I mean, what food do Chinese people like? Well, often Chinese people like to go to a Japanese restaurant. Same as if you're American, you might go to a Mexican restaurant, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, so I've had a lot of Japanese food in China, but in Japan, it was really fantastic. Yeah. Of course, I went to Mexico, and yeah, that is now a James Bond kind of country thoroughly. I know it's doubled for other countries before.
Yeah, and you spent 7 years in Turkish Cyprus, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So during the 7 years, what years were those? Because of course, Turkey's probably evolutionized a lot since the 60s, and then of course we see it from. Oh, you said 3 Bond films, so that was From Russia with Love, The World Is Not Enough, and I'm trying to think of that third one now, but we saw, yes, in Skyfall, so, because he was in Istanbul for Skyfall, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, so all three, it's really just based in Istanbul.
Yeah.
Skyfall, they use another city kind of double for the train fight.
I was just going to say, was that doubled as a extra, do you know of, or? Because it didn't look like it. You probably know better than I do. That does not look like Turkey to me. That looked like it was actually set on a soundstage, to be honest.
I think some was a soundstage, but the picture of the countryside is very definitely Turkey. So I think it was just outside Izmir, but I'd have to go to the James Bond locations website to be sure of that. So it seems like, I mean, it's a couple of hours by train, so they've been fighting a long time. No wonder they're tired at the end. But yeah, you get out of Istanbul pretty quickly on some of the trains, and so you get countryside just like that.
So what was it like? What years were you in Turkey? Like,
sure. So I went in 2001, actually.
Okay.
Yep. So summer of 2001, and I was there, I'd say until 7 years later. Then I went back to the UK and studied as a mature student at university.
It's never too late to go back to school, right?
Absolutely.
So your Instagram name is Fleming Never Dies. What made you come up with that as a title?
Well, I love the books by Ian Fleming, and it seems that he never dies. I mean, they adapted the books, they ran out of books, they carried on adapting in the style of the books, taking titles from like the name of his house in Jamaica. Tomorrow Never Dies seems a very Fleming-esque title, although he didn't write it. And I really love the movie Tomorrow Never Dies, so it kind of came together from one of the films I really like and the author I really like.
Very nice. And I agree. You're right. Fleming really doesn't die there, and there's so many people out here in the community that are, even though it's James Bond related, but Ian Fleming is the creator. But you got to realize you're living life like Fleming's James Bond in his second. So you should be thankful for that, because you're right, he never does die. So
he seems to live on, even into other franchises like the Mission Impossible series that we talked about, and the Kingsman series. It's like this whole genre he's created.
Such an inspiration for everybody.
Yeah.
Have you been? Oh, right. Never thought we were going to mention that, but have you been to Goldeneye?
No, I've never been to the Caribbean, so I feel that's the big Fleming place I've never been.
So that would be on your list one of these days whenever you have the downtime and when you can take the extra holiday and see how much, oh, hey, it's finally time.
Yep.
So we're going to jump into No Time to Die since the movie comes out shortly. What are your impressions on what you've seen from the trailers? And of course, Cary Fukunaga, the director, just dropped a mini vlog on it. What are you feeling so far?
Feeling pretty excited. That trailer that he just dropped. I think that's fantastic. I mean, that's excitement in a bottle right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think he seemed to get it. Looks like we'll have the gun barrel at the beginning. Fantastic, in the right place. Yeah, it really looks like he's got it all together. So yeah, he's not like an action director, is he? I mean, I don't think he's done any action movies before.
Have you heard of a TV series called? It's on. Well, I don't know if you'd have to probably stream them over in China, but it's called True Detective.
I've heard of it, and I actually saw trailers for it in the cinema here. So I like slightly confused me at the time to have a trailer for a TV show in the cinema, but it looked really intriguing.
Well, they got to promote it somehow, right?
I guess so.
But yeah, he did the first season, I think, and I think he did like a few episodes of it, and that's what people say. That's what how he truly won over Barbara and Michael. So I've also said in my last video with the Bon Army Ray Crumple, I think he's the closest thing that we have had since Terrence Young. He truly understands what Bond is, what Bond needs. He's redesigning it as well. Instead of pretty much, it looks like, yeah, Daniel Craig is hands-on with the clothes he wants to wear, but you can tell by what he's wearing in this film. I could see definitely Cary Fukunaga wear in person as well. Yeah. So I've been saying, and Terrence Young was like that. He took Connery to Anthony Sinclair over at Turnbull and Astor. And of course, Terrence Young was a visionary.
He was.
You can truly see that in Cary. He's a visionary director. He just wants to make it the best film possible, and that's what Terrence wanted as well. Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Hoping I can see it soon after it comes out. Strange situations here in China at the moment, but I really hope I can see it very early on. Yeah, it's exciting. It's been 5 years, hasn't it? So
5 long years, but it does not feel like it's been 5 years at the same time. So hopefully it lives up to standards and with everything that we've seen.
Yeah. Last shot for Daniel Craig.
Yeah. One last time. I've always said his films have been hit, miss. So it's time to go out with a bang and make it a big hit. And he needs to go out with a punch. So what's your thoughts on Safin potentially being Dr. No and Blofeld coming back into the picture after being captured by MI6 in Spectre?
Okay, so first of all, with Blofeld, I'm very happy with him coming back. I've just been rereading You Only Live Twice, the novel, and that's the end of the Blofeld trilogy. So I always felt like in the books it's so powerful, and in the movies I sometimes feel perhaps because of the change in actors in the 60s and so on that you kind of fail to capture that same power that's in the novel. So I really like it when characters come back. Clifton James obviously coming back in The Man with the Golden Gun. That was like a highlight of the film for me because Bond travels all the world. Why doesn't he come across the same people occasionally? I think that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I like the actors come back, not just the main actor, but all the kind of the other people. So like we used to have the head of the KGB come along as the same actor in like every single film. And again, I really enjoy that kind of continuity. So very happy to see him back.
And then your thoughts on Safin potentially being Dr. No?
Yeah, that would be very interesting. Yeah.
Are you
I
open
really don't
for
know.
it, or are you like, if he's Doctor No, does
Mm,
that just ruin things with Joseph Wiseman's portrayal? And of course, we're not getting Ursula Andress walking out of the water in a bikini. Maybe we'll get Anna de Armas, but
or
and
Daniel Craig.
she, oh yeah, Daniel Craig walking out of the water with trunks again, with his hair just flipping all over the place, and people are gonna be probably watching this video. Like I said, they're gonna be like, "What the hell is he doing?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yes, Safin is Doctor No and happy with it, but it's like everything else. It's how it's done rather than the concept itself. I think we've seen again like Blofeld's been portrayed by so many actors, and Felix Leiter. It almost seems to be like a rule. It must be a different actor every time. So yeah, we'll see.
yeah,
Obviously, I'm
and
very excited to see Felix Leiter return.
well, I'm glad. I'll say this: I'm glad that we got Christoph Waltz back as Blofeld, and especially in this situation, he's been captured by MI6. He's been
Yeah,
sitting in a jail cell for 5 years. I think it would have been pretty awkward to see another actor in a jail cell over a
yeah,
duration of 5 years.
absolutely.
Two, Felix, we've had Jeffrey Wright for Daniel Craig's tenure, which he's
Yeah.
the best. He's personally the best in my book since David Hedison's
Mm. That
version.
good relationship with Daniel Craig. It seems they got real.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I was just about to go. The relationship there is fantastic.
Yeah.
So you need that into the continuity aspect as well, because the Craig
Mm.
films are their own thing. It's been a
Very much.
reboot, so if we introduced someone else as Felix Leiter, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
so to that food topic.
Oh, okay.
So what are some of the, well, and this is one of the questions I was going to ask you as a rapid fire question, but you know what? I'll take it out and I'll just replace it with something else. Ian Fleming mentions a lot of food in his
Mm.
books. I'm glad I've done my research on this. What are some of the foods that you really like that Ian Fleming has brought to his books?
I've got to zone in immediately on From Russia with Love, where you got all the Turkish food. So again, he talks about the Turkish breakfast, which I absolutely love. Again, got to mention again, I stayed in the same hotel. I had the same Turkish breakfast that he had, I guess. And I recently cooked mutton ragu. So that's kind of the gypsy recipe. And there's a website by Edward Bidoff, who really goes deep into the recipes. He's published a book, License to Cook, which I've bought, and I've been going through the recipes. And I think mutton ragu is, like this, like lamb stew with lots and lots and lots of garlic, bake some bread to go with it. That's been popular with me and my girlfriend.
Oh, very nice. Sounds like, I don't, well, you said mushroom, right?
Mm. Mutton, yeah.
What is that for the
Old sheep,
listeners? I'll pass.
sheep.
Is it very salty?
No, not salty at all. No,
Can I put hot sauce on it to make it taste better?
I don't think it could taste better. I think as it is perfect. But one thing that you might like is they talk about Turkish coffee, and of course we
Yes.
normally have that with Turkish delight. Some people know about Through the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So
Good reference right there.
so yeah, you can get that in Istanbul, of course. That tends to be kind of a modern recipe which keeps for a long time, but it is like a modern manufactured sweet. So one nice thing is that growing up in Turkish Cyprus, it's not the bright center of the Turkish universe. It's not the most developed. Back then, it was very underdeveloped. I used to chop firewood for the fire in the evenings, and we used to have power cuts and telephone cuts and water cuts. It's just that kind of place. It's really out in the boonies. So one of the advantages is that the Turkish delight there, the recipe had never changed. The same recipe back in the 50s is used now, and Yeah, I can't resist it.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear, and especially for people like you that keep on going back and visiting. It's
Mm,
like, don't change something that's been so good for so many years, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So let's jump into these rapid fire questions. Let's say, Thomas,
Hmm.
favorite Bond movie?
I'll go with Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of cheesy in my book, but I'll support your decision. Uh,
Solid.
favorite James Bond book from any of the authors?
Oh, I'll go for From Russia with Love. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite villain?
Like I guess it's Elliot Carver, possibly Scaramanga. I kind of divide the films into old and new. I might go with Scaramanga just for variety here.
Oh, absolutely. Are we talking about well, in
Oh, so
the
yeah,
move? I was going to
yeah.
say Christopher Lee played him in the movie, and then, of course, and he had a fountain pen that turned into with a cigarette lighter and whole 9 yards in the movie, and then, of course, in the book, it was a revolver.
Yeah, and the character himself is completely different. I mean, the character in the books is a very uncomplicated, nasty hood. He's just a brute. Christopher Lee completely, he changed that role, or the casting of him changed that role. They rewrote it completely.
Yeah. And I think at the time, if I remember hearing correctly, they wanted Jack Palance, but
Mm,
at the same time, they wanted someone that could mirror Roger Moore. And I
yeah.
think Chris Lee was fantastic. And that's the one aspect that when I get asked, what's your favorite Chris Lee movie? I
Mm,
always say The Man with the Golden Gun, not just because it's a Bond film, but he
mm,
played don't get me wrong, he played Dracula for such a long time, but he is
mm.
such a diverse actor and how he mirrors up so perfectly with
Yeah.
Roger in that film.
It's like a dark side Bond, and that really works well, whether it's in GoldenEye, when you have that flip side of what Bond could have been, or even in
Mm.
Skyfall, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Good comparison right there. So, well, and the fact that it's like, oh, I'm trying to think of what I was going to say. Yeah, well, no, you summed it up pretty well, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Favorite Bond car with you can have any of the gadgets evolved in them.
Hmm, that is tough. I think I'll go for the underwater Lotus.
That would be a thrill to have.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to it. Can't really. Well, yeah, I'll go back to it. Favorite food that Fleming does mention in his books. Just
Mm.
so if people weren't listening carefully on the last part of the food topic.
Sure, I would say the mutton ragu. I got the recipe from License to Cook, good book, and I just followed it exactly, and the results were fantastic. I've got to make it again.
Uh, what Bond locations do you want to see in the future?
Hmm. I feel I should say Jamaica because it comes up so much, but actually, I'm going to say India. A great Bond location in Octopussy, and I think there's so much to see. And I've traveled so much in Asia without hitting India. So yeah, I think that's my number one place to go.
I hear you. I've always would love to see what, the Bombay, India,
Mm,
uh, would be like, just because of the culture is so diverse there as well. So,
yeah.
let's. Where do you want to see Eon go after Daniel Craig's departure and No Time to Die?
Well, I go with the theory that they're best when they kind of flip very strongly, right? So after Sean Connery, if you skip George Lazenby, then you go to Roger Moore, who's very, very different Bond. Then you go to Timothy Dalton, who's totally different from Roger Moore. So what I really want, although I've really enjoyed the Daniel Craig era, but I think that if you try and follow it with something similar, um, I think you might be in Daniel Craig's shadow. So I think something just totally, totally different, something left field, because that's what they seem to do best. So yeah, something
It's a
bright and
good
light.
Oh, absolutely. It can, and that might be the way to go. Just keep on following the tradition that did so well for 50 plus years. And
Yeah. But also, I think there's like a generational issue that obviously, for my age, I can remember Pierce Brosnan coming along. That was light and it's kind of kid-friendly-ish, you know. So as a kid, you could be excited watching these films. I went to see The World Is Not Enough when I was pretty young, and then as I got older, like the films got older with me. So when you got Daniel Craig coming in, you know, this is not a kid's film as he's strapped to the chair. You know, you can't show that to you can't show that to a very small child. So I really feel that they aged with me. But I also feel, you know, if you're 8 years old now, are you going to go to a Bond film? Are you going to get excited about it? Where's the new Bond film fans coming in? You know, I think maybe getting Billie Eilish to do the soundtrack gets in a certain generation. But I'd love to have a Bond film that I could take, you know, younger relatives to.
oh, absolutely. And it's time that we start bringing back that aspect, I think, because, yeah, we're hurting from the younger generation. There's some out there that have probably never even heard of James Bond, and it's like they don't air them really much on TV like they used to, and it's like it's finally time. And I'm wondering with the younger generation that's out there, oh, Billie Eilish did this song named No Time to Die. What's it about?
Yeah.
Well, of course they have to look it up now on Google because we have the power source of that. Oh, it's a James Bond series, and it's like now they get that itch. Well, we got to go see the movie just because of the song.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll lure people in from the younger generation in. And of course, there are people out there that are younger that have seen them, but you know, I know I was seeing this movie called Jumanji. This second one that came out from the reboot of the one with Robin Williams, and the trailer to No Time to Die dropped, and of course there was, of course there was kids that were in the theater, and you could hear the gasp. It's like, what's this action packed? Like, yeah. And it's like, and you can hear them just chatter with their folks saying, "Oh, we gotta go see this, Dad. We gotta go see this, Mommy." And it's like, that's what we've been needing. We need the younger generation to appreciate Bond again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't have, and they don't have the Bond video games for kids to play. Like from when I was young. So. Yeah. Who is your favorite James Bond of all time?
I'll go happily with Roger Moore. I feel he does the silliest, and he does serious as well. And I think people focus on the silliest because Moonraker was such a massive hit at the time. But I think things like For Your Eyes Only, we get to see kind of a different side to him, like an older, more mature Bond. And I think for everyone who loves, you know, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, For Your Eyes Only is the perfect kind of sequel to it. You know, he says, you know, if you seek, you know, revenge, first dig 2 graves. And of course, we see Teresa Bond's grave there. Yeah,
such a good homage to both. So I absolutely agree, and that's one of my favorite Roger Moore films is For Your Eyes Only, just because you're right, we see that seriousness of him.
And Roger Moore did it very well, but I think he really responded to direction. Most of the other actors they're strong at what they do, whereas I think Roger Moore, you see him in different films, and he really could be very, very different. Although he's very self-depreciating about his acting talent.
Yeah, and well, you're in that age group that you've seen him in The Persuaders, and you saw how diverse of an actor he was in that, and then when he brought over from that, he brought it to Bond.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a film called Gold recently, which kind of was recommended to me by Bond fans as being a bit like A View to a Kill. But I watched it and it was nothing like A View to a Kill. It was a very hard, gritty film. Some pretty on the nose stuff, but it was fantastic in it.
Well, you got to see The Man Who Haunted Himself, because he doubles himself and it's of course Roger Moore playing Roger Moore, and he's haunting himself, and they say that is one of the best movies he's done in his whole entire career. So I recommend, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
I'll check it out.
Well, Thomas, I thank you very much for coming on this morning for you, and this evening for me, I should say. I appreciate you for taking time out of your schedule for sitting down and chatting. And
Thank you very much for inviting me on to your show.
Well, I'm honored to have you on, and we will follow up once you see No Time to Die, and we'll get your impressions of the film if you get to go see it. And if you want to check out Thomas's Instagram, go check out Fleming Never Dies, and we will both look forward to seeing you after the movie comes out. So, Thomas, thank you.
Thank you. See you later.